open eyes and ears to hear from you. Amen. Turn to the people around you and chat about what are your hopes for 2026, the year ahead. What are the things you want to see happen? Well, this way. Can I make this right? Can I use that one? Yeah, I'm in a. Cool. Does anyone have a hope they want to share? I want to hear some if we've got some. Be brave. Who's feeling brave? Yeah.
That I get a guitar strap for my guitar.
Very practical. I love it. Absolutely. Has anyone else got one? That's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, we've had an incredible Christmas. Having reached my 80th, there's not as many years to go as I've lived through. But it's been brilliant because I've had the family together. So the son and granddaughter from Australia and Kevin and Lisa and the lads here. It's been wonderful. So that's a family. I've got another family, and the other family is my shed family. And there's a couple of people associated with it with a disease called FND. And lo and behold, we were talking to a medic here this morning, and she's given me real hope to do something about FND, because you can't do much about it other than get together, which is what sheds do. So, yeah, I go on about sheds, so watch it.
That's amazing. Yeah, family, community. Yeah, absolutely. Any other hopes for the year ahead? Anyone wants to share? Gone. Okay. Well, that's awesome. I'm sure there were lots of great things. I don't know if we can get the first slide up, if it'll work. No. Okay. That's all right. I'll grab a Bible, because it was just a verse. But thank you. Oh no. Sorry. I'm making such a mess. Here we go. So, yeah, I think today's two readings are pretty good for people thinking ahead to the year ahead. If you've got resolutions or hopes, or if you're that sort of a person, today's two readings were pretty good for thinking about what are we going to focus on, what's going to be our focus for the year. And Paul said in 1 Corinthians, this verse, "While I was with you, I resolved to know nothing except Jesus Christ and him crucified." And I think as we start the year ahead, there are lots of great things to hope for. Guitar straps are very helpful, and family is wonderful. And yeah, those are all great, but above it all, like number one priority, actually, if day by day we just want to know Jesus more, actually all three bits of the Trinity, if we want to know God more, that's like a great place to start for 2026. Yeah, I don't know if any of this is going to work, but that's okay. We'll fly solo. Woo! It's like the old days, like how Paul preached. This is how we're going. Yeah, going back to the chapter before, I want to set the scene for like how Paul's got to this bit that he's talking about in Corinthians. And I think verse 27 sums up chapter 1 pretty well. It says, "But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong." And yeah, so Paul starts talking about this idea of, the weak things shaming the wise. And at first he's talking about it in relation to Jesus. And this idea that the Jews were expecting a Messiah who was going to fight for them, be this big military leader who would drive the Romans out and give them their land and their freedom back. And the Greeks really respected really good orators, really clever people, and they respected power as well and strength. And Jesus was kind of the opposite of all that. And Paul's point is that to most people looking, they would see a poor preacher killed on the fringe edge of an empire in a way that was designed to be as humiliating as possible, as weakness, as foolishness, as a bit pathetic. But for us, we see it and we know its real meaning. It's the most important thing that's ever happened, and that it was strength, and it was wisdom, and it was love. And I think that's amazing. And then Paul carries it on and applies the same logic to the church in Corinth. Apply it to you. And he says something that they maybe could have been a bit offended by. He said, none of you lot were anything that special when you were called. None of you were very wise. None of you were very strong. Not many of you were of noble birth or considered important in society, but God chose you lot to be his community, to be the people that were going to work out his purposes on earth. He chose to use the weak things of the world to shame the strong. Yes, and then, actually, the next slide was going to have a photo, and I was going to ask if anyone recognised it, which isn't going to work. But who here is it going to work? Is it going to work? Oh, All Saints logo. Who here, big chair, if you have seen the film Encanto? Yeah. Okay, great. And who knows what was special about the main family? Yeah.
They had the candle.
They had the candle. What did the candle do?
Light up.
It did light up. And what could most of the people in the family do? Do people know? Has anyone else got any ideas? Yeah.
They all had different gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. They all had different magic powers. So one of them, the one I'm most jealous of, he could talk to animals. That's pretty cool, isn't it? But the main character, is her name Mirabelle? I'm being very silly now. Give me a big cheer if her name's Mirabelle. Yeah, okay, I've got it right. She is the only one in the family who doesn't have a magic power. And so she looks weak, and she looks like she's not able to do very much. As the film goes on, you see actually she's the most important member of the family, because what she's really good at is listening to people, loving people, helping them work through their emotions, bringing people together, bringing the outsiders in. And it turns out that that's way more important and way stronger than any magic power anyone had. And I think that's a really cool example of what we're talking about today. Well, Paul carries on into our passage today, and he applies the same logic to himself. And he says, when I came to you, I didn't use big, fancy words. It's a bit ironic, because the verse says, I didn't come to you with eloquence, which I think, come on, man. But yes, the idea is, he didn't come feeling like he needed to be all fancy, but the reason his message worked was just because it was God's message, and it went out in the power of the Spirit, and that was all that mattered. And I think, often in the church we have a temptation to think, it's the person who's really confident speaking, who's got really good points and really flashy, or it's the person who prays a really beautiful prayer with lots of and actually what Paul's saying is none of that is really very important, and what matters is the character that's underneath it, the love, have you heard God's message, and is that the message you're speaking out? Everything else is just, it's not as important. So as mature Christians, we should expect to be people who hear God just as often through a stuttering preacher or through the simple prayer of a child as we do through anything else. The next slide at this point was going to be a photo of a camel, and I thought we could have a little competition to see who can do the best camel's face. So if you all do a camel's face at me, and I'm going to decide who's the best. Ooh, there's some good ones. Yeah, okay. Excellent work. Who's going to do the best? Oh, yes. There's some different strategies going on here. Yeah, okay. Oh, I'm not going to pick a winner. You are all fantastic. There's too many. Brilliant. I wonder if anyone could find, there are 3 presents hidden throughout the church. And I wonder if anyone's noticed any presents and if they could bring them to the front if they've spotted a present. Oh. Now, you can bring them up if you found one. There might be 2 more somewhere near the back, maybe. They're all wrapped in the same Christmas pudding wrapping paper. Oh, I think someone's found one. Maybe one of them's on a little nativity set. Maybe certain Bible characters are bringing a present to baby Jesus. Hey, amazing. And we are going to open the present, and they are a clue to which Bible characters we're talking about in our next little bit. So if you want to open the presents, go for it. Open them up. Okay. We have some gold glitter. Ooh. A black tie, and some air freshener. Now, can anyone guess which Bible character these 3 presents might be? We've got wise men. Way! So, yes, they brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Now, so we've got gold glitter, and who wears a lot of gold apart from rappers? Who wears a lot of gold? Angels do wear a lot of gold, yeah, but is there anyone else? Anyone you can think of? Mr. T, we've got a good suggestion. And there was another suggestion here. A king. Way, bingo. So a lot of people think that the reason the wise men brought gold was because they were saying this baby is a king. I quite like that. You might not, but I think that's good. And then we've got frankincense, which was a smelly perfume. Do you want to give it a spray? I'm going to get out of the firing line. Yes, and it was a smelly perfume that they would have in the temple. And the temple was before God came into the world as a person in Jesus, and before he also came into the world by his Holy Spirit living in us, way back before all of that. And the temple was where God lived, which was a bit weird. And that was where they would spray lots of frankincense around. So a lot of people think that they brought frankincense because they were saying this baby is God with us in the world. This is where God is. This baby is God. Isn't that amazing? And then we've got myrrh. Now, myrrh is a really weird thing to give to a baby because myrrh is something you put on a dead body. So it's like, yeah, that's the correct facial expression. They were like, happy birthday, here's some stuff for your funeral. And yes, so very strange behavior, but lots of people think that the reason they brought myrrh was because they were saying, actually, we know that this baby is a baby that's going to have to die and have a really important death. So yeah, can we have a big round of applause for our helpful 3? Do you want to spray it? Lovely. Cool. Well done, guys. Brilliant. Cool. You can have a sit down if you want. Thank you. I'll wear my tie. Yeah. You can. Do you want to give it back, or do you want to keep it? You can keep the air. Yeah, you don't want the air freshener. You can keep the glitter. Yeah. You are very welcome. But yes, I find the 3 wise men really interesting. So they are probably the last people anyone would have expected to recognize what God was doing and come and see. So they were foreigners, and a lot of people thought that, Jews as God's special people were the only ones who heard from God. And they weren't just any old foreigners. They were actually priests in the pagan religion of the kind of Persian, now it would be Iranian area. And they were looking at the stars and wondering what the stars told them. So a lot of people would say these people are superstitious, or they're magicians, or they're involved in paganism, or all the wrong things. They're not going to be the people that hear from God. And actually, as they come, and whether you agree with me that the presents were these prophetic symbols, but I think they were, and I think that shows how much they got in. It's amazing. But even if you don't think that, they are the ones in the stable who are bowing before baby Jesus, where everyone else misses it. All the people you'd expect who've been meditating their whole lives on these prophecies about how the Messiah was going to come, you'd expect them to be in the stable, but actually most of the nation of Israel's missed what's going on. And it's these wise men who kind of get it. And I think that follows a long pattern in the Bible of unexpected people being the ones that God uses and who recognize him and who speak through him. There's this crazy bit early on in the book of Numbers where God speaks through a donkey, and I think that's really funny. I often wonder what accent the donkey had. But yes. Anyway, I think the point is that as we go forwards, let's expect to hear God in the unexpected places. Let's not write anyone off and think they couldn't hear from God. Or actually, let's approach everyone with an attitude of like, what can I learn? What might you be here to show me? So I thought that was cool. As Paul carries on, he carries on with this idea of like weak things and wise things and foolish things and strong things that we saw in the wise men and we see in loads of people. And he puts this like new language on it of like, and it's different in different translations, so I'll see what I've got here. We've got, we do, however, speak a message of wisdom among the mature, but not wisdom of this age. No, we speak God's secret wisdom. So some translations have like this idea of wisdom of this age or worldly wisdom, human wisdom, and then on the other side we've got like this godly wisdom, God's wisdom. And as I was preparing this sermon, I could hear upstairs my plumber's radio, and there was a debate going on. And I was like trying to work out, what is this radio station? It was really weird because it sounded too Christian to be a secular radio station, but too secular to be a Christian radio station. There were like little Christian themes coming in, but not much. And they were having this debate about asylum seekers. And there was this woman who was like, we should welcome asylum seekers. That's really important, like, as a nation that we're doing that. And there was this man who was very skeptical about that idea and like, no, we shouldn't be doing that. And this woman was chairing the debate, and she said to the man, she kind of suggested that maybe, some people have suggested his argument is unchristian, and gave him a chance to respond to that. And he really didn't like the idea that his view was unchristian, and he came back with lots of points. And he started saying, we only have so many resources as a country, and we need to make sure we can care for people. And some of these people coming over might be criminals, and we don't know. And we need to look after ourselves. And it occurred to me that some of what he was saying maybe sounded like it could be wise, like it could be rooted in trying to care for people. But as I was reading this, you go, well, what kind of wisdom is it? Is it worldly wisdom or godly wisdom? And he didn't talk about the Bible once when he was saying what God thinks. And he didn't at one point mention Jesus or think, what would Jesus make of asylum seekers? And at another point in the to and fro, he got quite emotional, quite stirred up, and he said, well, why would we take the risk? And it occurred to me that the gospel is not about avoiding risk. And a couple of days ago, we were celebrating that God did not go, I could stay up in heaven and have a nice palace and have angels be my servants. But God came down into our world that's messy and broken. And of all the places he could have spent his first night, it was with a homeless family. And if anything's like not avoiding risk, it's that. And as we carry the story forward, Jesus became a refugee, having to flee to Egypt because Herod was trying to kill him. And he continued throughout his life to be obedient to the Father, and as Philippians says, obedient even to the point of death on a cross. And Philippians says in that same passage, we should have the same mind as that of Jesus. Now, we never manage that. We're not good at that, but that's the aim, right? And so I don't know exactly what you think about asylum seekers. I'm really happy to chat more about it because I think it's a really important issue, and I think it involves like people, and it really matters. But I think it's important to say that as a starting place and as a minimum, what we think about it can't start from a place of risk aversion, because risk aversion is not the gospel. And Jesus took a huge risk for people that he loved and cared about. Peter, in our other reading, covered very similar themes to Paul, and I loved that. He talked about, he wants to keep reminding them while he's in his letter or while he's with that church of these basic gospel truths that he talked about before our reading, which were that Jesus has grace for us, that the Holy Spirit is changing us, and that we have to work at that, and we have to, want to be people who desire God and are loving and have our character changed. That was the basic stuff. So as we were saying, as we look ahead to 2026, we want it all to be about Jesus Christ and Him crucified. Yeah, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, focus on God. And and then he says, isn't it amazing? I was an eyewitness of this stuff. I didn't need to come to you with big philosophies, big words again, like Paul. Actually, I just tell you what I saw. It's really simple. And I've loved the last few months doing Mark's Gospel in here and in life groups. And I think we're going to continue that in a few months' time. But yeah, it's just so good to read what happened when Jesus was here on earth. And I think that, really changes people. And then there was this fascinating verse in the middle of it where Peter seems to know he's about to die. And you go, how do you know that? What's going on there? And as I was reading that, I was reminded of Martin Luther King's final speech, or final televised speech, where he seems to know that he's about to die too. And we were going to watch it, but we're not. So Google it when you get home, because it's well worth the risk. It's okay to be a nerd. Go and watch it. It's absolutely amazing. And it occurred to me that Martin Luther King's quite a good example of what we've been talking about, of weak things, wise things, foolish and strong, in that there were these people, African-American people, who had experienced so much violence, and there were lots of people at the time that said, well, we need to fight back. We need to give violence back. We need to... And you hear that and you go, oh, a lot of that actually, that sounds quite reasonable. That makes sense. If you've experienced violence, give it back, right? And then Martin Luther King and thousands of other people in this movement said, actually, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to turn the other cheek. And lots of people said, well, how weak is that and how stupid? But they said, well, actually, no, I think this is going to be strong. And I think this is wise. And loads of them said, I just think this is what God's calling me to do. Martin Luther King, I'm sure, did not get this right all the time. I'm sure he had lots of moments of failure. But in this final speech, it's amazing because he's just so focused on, I just want to do God's will. And with the days I have left, with however long that is, I just want to follow God. And I think as we look ahead to 2026, hopefully we get guitar straps as well. That would be awesome. But actually, if we just do God's will, if we're just that focused and sold out for that, that's a pretty good place to be.
We're going to get a mic working in a minute. Are we on, Kate? Right. Thank you, Henry. Interesting left field stuff as ever, but effective, When I knew we were doing a joint youth and children's service, and I knew Henry was doing it, suddenly I felt safe, because he will do something which is engaging and different and with a universal